Give it a minute. Okay, we can get going.
You ready?
Yes.
Call the workshop to order. First item on the agenda tonight, Endowment Committee Indicator Report.
I have the clicker right here too for that, so I will get it.
All right, I'm Faith Myers. I'm the student representative for the endowment board.
I'm Stephanie Gamble, and I'm one of the co-chairs this year for the endowment board. So today we're going to kind of just run through our 25-26 granting cycle. And kind of what we did in this granting cycle, funds that we were able to give to teachers and staff, how much money we've kind of given over the last couple years. And with that, so these are our current 2025-2026 officers. We've grown as a board. We've recruited several individuals this year, which is great. And we're always looking for more. But there's a good mix between community members and students and ISD 318 staff. So this is our granting data from this year's granting cycle for 2025. As you can see, there's lots of funds that were rewarded to all the various locations, from Cohasset West all the way to the district level GATE program. And there was a few combined location requests that was really encouraging to see that way. And we've done really well the last couple of years, making sure we can get to, all the different locations versus just focusing on, 2 or 3 separate schools. So the teachers have and staff have done a better job of submitting grants so that we can do that. And obviously some are more than others just because of the population at each school is bigger. But yeah, it's been really well spread the last couple of years. Okay. So over the past 5 years, this is the amount of funds that we've been able to give out. Typically, it's been between the 35,000 to 37,000 is our normal year. The ones that are much larger than that are specific funds that we've received that have been done through the Community Foundation that are specific for like field trips or just very specific amounts to do that year. So those are atypical in general, and those are awesome because we're getting more and more grants filled out each year. So we're getting more funds to the teachers and the staff, which is awesome. Who knows what the future will bring, but that's kind of what our trends have looked like. And with that, this year we received 61 requests. Those 61 requests totaled 137,000, and of that we were able to give 51,000. So there's a huge need out there, and so we're able to help a little bit, but always hoping to help more. Oh yeah.
The biggest thing that we've kind of ran into as a board is over the past few years, this is my second year serving on the board, and it's been cool to see all the new requests coming in and stuff like that. But as the district's budget has been cut, we've seen such like an influx of creative requests and people thinking outside of the box that just new ways to help kids, get kids interacting is really cool to see. And that's what we're given all we can, all the STEM projects and outdoor learning, sensory spaces, stuff like that. It's just making a huge impact. Yeah.
With that, is there any questions?
You say, thank you, by the way. Could you say a word about the work that you've talked about, the grants that you give? But I know there's also some support for our staff. Can you say a word about that?
Yeah, so we do specifically teacher appreciation in February. We last year purchased cookies through the high school cafeteria, or what is it called? The food service. Thank you, Carol. So that was super successful the last couple years. And then we provide flyers and more information for any questions or submissions for the grants that year. Trying to think what else we do. We do a lot of, well, not a lot, Facebook presence that way, trying to get our name out there to increase donors to our fund so that we can help grow that for future generations. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the work that you do, and remind everyone that year end is coming up, and it's a great time to add the endowment fund to your year end gifts.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, data for learning, multi-tiered system of support indicator, Zach.
Thank you for having me. So I was asked to put together a few words about MTSS, and I guess walking away, I really want people to understand the system as a whole and how MTSS is really intertwined into all of that. So let me see if I can work out this clicker. So my name is Zach Erickson. Just a little background. I was a kindergarten teacher in Park Rapids, Minnesota. My wife, Lindsay, and I then moved to Colorado. She's a school counselor, and I taught kindergarten again in Colorado. My wife was a counselor in Colorado Springs, and then we moved back to Grand Rapids, where I was a teacher at Cohasset, and my wife received a counseling position at Hill City. And then 2 years ago, I received the principal position at Hill City. And then this MTSS position popped up and I came back. So I was very fortunate for that. So we have 2 kiddos. Bowen is 2 and then Hallie is 9 months yesterday. So that's kind of the background there. So today, again, I just want to explain the framework, what we're doing in the tier 2 setting, specifically with title and ADSYS, AmeriCorps, so going over some data and then some next steps that are on the horizon here for this coming school year and the next. So as you all know, just a quick overview, MTSS is really a framework that integrates assessment, instruction, and then providing that intervention. So we really talk about early identification with that targeted support to really just improve the outcomes of all of our students. So when I think of MTSS, I take these 3 things: data-driven decision-making, tiered support, and then collaboration. And if you guys have questions throughout, just interrupt me. So I created this visual. You know, you hear universal screening, diagnostic, but what does that all mean at our district level? So universal screening is done 3 times per year at our district. K3 is doing that with FastBridge, which is an assessment program. And then our grades 4 through 12 are utilizing STAR, reading and math. Okay. So once all students screen, we look at that data, and anyone below a certain norm referenced percentile, we then provide a diagnostic assessment. Okay. And that's going to really tell us what the gaps are in those kiddos so we can provide that tailored instruction. So once our team creates a universal screening diagnostic assessment, then I go to every building, and as our tier 2 team, we complete placement meetings, and they're a full, West and East are a full day. And then I Cohasset in Big Fork half days, but then we just dive through the data and start placing our students into tier 2 reading and math groups. Once that's all done, interventions start, and our title and ADSYS and AmeriCorps people get to work. And then another layer is our MTSS meetings. And that's where I go again to all the buildings with basically a good rep from each building. So we have an admin, student support specialist, and then an interventionist. And we're looking at all the data: academic, attendance, ODRs, and then action steps of how we can make sure we're addressing that data. So that's kind of like the layers of support when we're talking about universal screening all the way down.
Zach,
Yep.
ODRs?
ODRs, office discipline referrals. Thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you. So I wanted to take an example. So I said my son, Bowen. So Bowen is in second grade, let's say. He's going to complete universal screening. He's going to do fast bridge A reading. It's on the iPad, and it takes about 20 to 30 minutes reading and then math. Then we have an interventionist completing CBM, which is fluency. So they'll read 3 passages under 60 seconds, and that pops out a fluency score. So we're looking at the A reading score and the CBM score. Then we also have A math. If Bo scored below the 50th percentile on that A reading, we're going to give him a diagnostic assessment. What we have for diagnostic assessment in the district is UFly for that grade level, K2. So UFly is going to talk about phonemic awareness and phonics, and it's going to tell us exactly where the gaps are. So then our interventionists know what they need to provide. Okay. And then we also look at that CBM data. It's not just, we like multiple data points because obviously one data point isn't going to tell the whole story. And then we're going to have that tier 2 placement meeting where Bowen is placed in an intervention group. Our groups range from 1 to 10, depending on that group's needs. If that kiddo is low, we may provide an intensive intervention, so there'll be less kids at the table. If they need work on fluency, which is a higher level skill, they may have more kids in that group. And then we have a 6-week intervention. So they will complete that intervention for 6 weeks, and then we'll again come back as a team, review the data. If that group isn't making progress, we're going to move kids to other people to change the group. The orange boxes is kind of like, if I'm a parent, this is how I'm getting communication. So universal screening families are given a letter to explain the screening process along with the data. So that goes home after every screening window at all buildings. If they are below that 50th percentile in grades K5, which again, that's looking at norm referenced, families are contacted by the classroom teacher that their student will be placed in an academic or behavior intervention. So that would be the first contact, like, hey, we're going to place Bowen in an intervention. This is what it's going to look like, and for 6 weeks. After 6 weeks, families are sent a letter from the interventionist with the progress monitoring data. And that's going to show a really nice graph with dots every week that they tested to show growth or maybe a decline, and then what those next steps are. Yep.
So when families are contacted, telling us not just an email, it's not like an actual conversation.
Yep, it's a phone call. Yep, good question. Yeah, it's outlined in our family and school communication plan. Yep, and then that is also a letter, but our interventionists call home too as well. Sometimes they just call to say, hey, Johnny's doing a really good job. We love having him. So that's kind of what that looks like. I did create a little snapshot. So we use EduClimber to really house all of this data. So that's called the data wall. And that's what we're looking at when we're at that tier 2 placement meeting. We will then go by the grade level, and we have all that data right there. So it makes it really nice.
Quick question for you.
Yep.
When an intervention is going to take place, there's obviously an interventionist that's doing the work at school. Is there some sort of direction or help that we share with families on how they can help this process at home as well?
Yeah, great question. So per the Minnesota READ Act, that legislation, they require that we send home things that they can do. So actually MD has a great website that Carol and I do a lot of work with. And it's a 1-page document based off of the different domains of reading. So if they need help in phonemic awareness, there's a phonemic awareness 1-page handout that goes home. And we do send that out when we send out the notification letters.
Awesome.
Yep. Good question. Yeah. Okay. So I want to go, sorry, I'm going to whiplash you. When we look at the diamond, tier 3, tier 2, tier 1, we always want to focus on tier 1. That's where we want to put all of our eggs because we want a strong classroom. But so we just talked about the tier 2, the targeted intervention. Now I'm going to talk about the other end, the tier 2 and tier 3 enrichment, and how that looks like as a gate coordinator. So this was kind of the tier 2 academic intervention. Now we're going to talk about the enrichment side of MTSS. So when universal screening is done, I've created a threshold in EduClimber that anytime a student flags and has 95th percentile or above in both reading or math, I'll get an email, and that will prompt me to complete the COGAT, which is a cognitive abilities test, and that will serve as our guide if a student qualifies for gifted and talented. So again, if we had a student, his name's John, he completes universal screening, he's in 3rd grade, he would complete STAR math and reading. Again, he would complete that Fastbridge CBM, which is the fluency. He multiple 95th percentiles and above. I then complete the COGAT. It's 3 domains: verbal, nonverbal, and quantitative. 9 subtests in all. It takes about an hour, so I'll do it in usually 2 sessions, depending on the kiddo. And then we'll have a meeting with the parent, admin, classroom teacher, and myself to go over the results and if they're a good fit for gifted. So those are 2 ends of the MTSS. Yeah.
Zach, when you do this COGAT test, is this only for, does it only cover up to a particular grade, or are you also able to screen in middle school and high school?
Yeah, good question. So it ranges from first all the way up to senior in high school. So, I mean, I'll go through some of the stats of what I've done this year, but I mean, I just finished a 7th grader. We have a 2nd grade with multiple 2nd graders. So all throughout.
And then one more question, I'm sorry.
Yep. No.
For those high school children, because we already do have, advanced classes for
Yeah.
those students, how do we supplement them after they've tested and we figure out that they are, within that percentile?
Yeah, I think as a gate coordinator, it's a fun challenge to tailor specific to what that student needs. So right now we have an 8th grader who is in advanced math, but still needs more. So we created a gate plan, and we're pulling in Beast Academy, which is an adaptive math acceleration program. Because they're a gate kiddo, we have those funds to do that. So it tailors to the student.
Okay,
Is how I'm approaching it.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
it does. Thank you.
Okay, so again, this is kind of just to bring home all of those things could not be done without universal screening, which is why it's so important and why we stress as a district, the principles of why we need to stick to the testing window, why we need to make sure all of our kids are screened, because if they're not screened, none of these services can be completed. It's how we ensure these services are. So again, it's just screening understands what students know and need, inform teachers and families, and really equity and accountability across all the schools. So I just provide an example. So, Carol and I work very close hand to hand in reviewing the data. We have 3rd graders using UFly, and looking at the data, a lot of our kids didn't need that skill in UFly, which is a phonics program. So Carol and I reached out to Functional Morphology, which is an approved program with the READ Act, and we're going to pilot it. We actually have a training here Thursday for any 3rd through 5th grade teacher, and they're going to pilot it for 2nd semester. And the company said, well, you can do it for free. You just have to pay for the training. It was an easy win. And it's a clear next step based off of data, and again, we couldn't make those decisions if we didn't have the data. Yeah, so morphology is really the study of words. So we're talking about prefixes, roots, Latin words, all of that. And so there's 3 different series. The scope and sequence is 3 different series going from 3rd through 5th, which is per state standards as well. So again, screening procedures, these documents are really for the district classroom teachers and admin to follow. It's laid out black and white. So we have a screening calendar. You can see the one on the right there. That's a K-5. There's a fall, winter, and then spring. And it says by the subtest of what everyone should be doing, which is aligned to the READ Act. There's that school and home communication tab that spoke to your question, and it outlines everything they should say. There's even a script for the teachers if they're not comfortable. Sometimes those are kind of hard conversations, so there's scripts to help them. Standardization, training, All of that is in here. So just to make it an easier process. So going back to screening, so we have K3 FastBridge. I'm sure you all have heard that word a lot, but FastBridge is really focused on the early literacy, so phonemic awareness and phonics, and then we're using STAR. One thing that's changed, again, going back to the diagnostic, we are using UFly this year, which is different. That is what the diagnostic UFly looks like on the right. There's different sets, and the interventionists complete that with the student if they're below that threshold, if it's 50 percentile. What's new is called CAPTI, Read Basics. It is the new diagnostic for grades 4 through 12 per the READ Act. We have to implement that by the winter screener, which is now, and we will be doing that to follow guidance from the state. So that CAPTI will be done for grades 4 through 12, anyone below the 50th for grades 4, 5, and then 30th percentile for grades 6 through 12 for this school year. It's all online, the CAPTI is, so they'll have their iPad and go through the 5 domains, and it'll spit out really good data that we're excited about. 6. Yep, there's 6. Thank you. That's why Carol's here. Any questions about diagnostic CAPTI? Staff are going through training now. We just last week we had an early out. It was 45 minutes with Amy through CAPTI. And then we have another one upcoming this Wednesday that will review what the data and what to do with the data. Yep.
Did we have to increase the amount of assessments we did to meet the readouts?
As far as seats,
What we used to do versus what we have to do?
Oh, yeah.
Like, do we know like how much? Like, I just want to know because I want the legislators to know.
Like money wise?
No, like just children and family. Like how many more assessments do we do now?
Yeah. If you fall below benchmark, below 50th percentile, I mean, you add that diagnostic. You know, that's what the addition would be.
So we didn't have that before. Is that how that went?
So the CAPTI is brand new this year, and that's mandated. So also to take back to the legislators. Sorry, Julie, I'll go up here.
Sorry.
No?
So also to take back to the state is that the CAPTI test. Can you go? I'm just taking over, Zach. That CAPTI test is not funded by the state. So that's at the cost of $8 a student, $7 a student. And as of the fall, we would have had to test 1,000. About 1,000. So we're talking 7,000 plus that we did not have budgeted for, that we're required to give this test. And so this is a requirement, right?
Yep.
And then we just had a couple of others in our K2, right, that we have to give those so there have been little subtests and things added along the way that we didn't have before.
So as like FastBridge, the READ Act requires certain subtests. So we have to do nonsense words for first grade, letter names for kindergarten. Like all of those are certain subtests that have been addition to the other 4 that to create that composite.
But to your point,
So yes,
all
I mean,
unfunded.
yeah.
They're all unfunded.
Yeah.
Required by the legislature that we have to do.
CAPTI is, yes. Yep. And we have been doing diagnostics as a district. We did OG, QPR diagnostics in the elementary. It's really new for the secondary. Yeah.
Thank you, Zach. And Carol.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's a lot of information. So I want to just go back. This is what a parent would see if their child was in an intervention. This is what the parent would want to see, the growth. But this is what a progress monitoring report would kick out from FastBridge that those intervention teachers are sending out every 6 weeks. So FastBridge is how we create that progress monitoring data. Okay, so I just kind of pulled some different things. So currently we have 17 ADSYS and title licensed teachers and ESPs. We have 3 ESPs and then the rest are licensed teachers. So Title I is federally funded. That grant is the thing that I coordinate, and ADSYS as well is a state funded program. So those are the 2 sources of interventions that we get that money from. Title I is always 1-to-1 matching. ADSYS, of course, is not. The district is paying some of that. We have 15 AmeriCorps members, and that's reading and math throughout the district. And then we have something new this year called True North, and that's SEL focus. And there's two, one at RGEMS and one at West. So just to highlight some things, we have 883 students being served by ADSYS and Title right now, 241 students being served by AmeriCorps and True North. 96% of our reading course students are showing growth improvement. So I think that is a huge accomplishment. These members, it's a volunteer position basically, and they come every day with a smile and just a joy to learn and to help students. So that's awesome. I do fidelity checks with the AmeriCorps admin team every month with all of these 15 members, and 100% less infidelity has been observed this school year, which speaks to the program. So any questions about that?
Do we have any sense of what's going to happen with federal funding on some of this? Do we know if it's impacted, not impacted?
As far as AmeriCorps, no, nothing's been impacted yet. Yeah. So I want to talk about GATE, and then I'm also the English language learner coordinator. So we'll talk about that too. But so for GATE, we have programs at Cohasset, Big Fork, and East. All of them are pull out with specific teachers for about 30 minutes focusing on STEM. And then we have a couple different programs that they utilize to make sure the kids are getting what they need. So Cohasset is grades 3 through 5, Big Fork 3 through 6, and then East is 3 through 5. And then I attach the teachers who are providing that service. GATE programming really does focus on science, technology, engineering, and math. We pull in Beast Academy, which is that adaptive math program that's new this year. And then Birdseed also is a resource for our GATE teachers that again focuses on that science and tech part. Total GATE evals as of 11/26 are 16, 12 qualified, and going through another 14 right now. So quite a bit, and it's really good. We get some teachers just inquiring about their student, and sometimes we put them on a watch list because they're not quite at that 95th where we're looking, and others we just want to see if it's a good fit. So it's kind of a fun program. It's actually Dr. Vanderschaft now, so I should have changed that. She is new this year. They completed hiring this fall. She's an excellent ELL teacher, but she is out of state, so it's all virtual. So I kind of coordinate that with her to make sure we have currently 5 ELL students. So just making sure they have the tech support with her. But yeah, that's really for that. We have an ELL at Early Edge, West, East, RGEMS, and GRHS. Any questions about that? Okay, so just going over some data. So FastBridge again, this is, we're right in the middle of, well, no, not middle. We just started winter screening today, so there's no data for winter yet, but just highlighting some fall. Early reading grades K1. This fall, we had 59% proficient, grade 2, 58%, and then grade 2 is at 54. I can't quite read that far. percent. And then the last 3 graphs are from the previous year. So you can see there's good growth. Grades 3 through 12 is STAR. So overall this fall, we hit 50.2%, which was an increase from last fall at 49.1. And then in the area of math, 46.1, which again is up from last fall, which was at 44.4. So I thought that was a good thing to highlight. So upcoming things, our tier 2 reading is at a really good place. We have clear systems in place. We're still waiting from guidance from the READ Act. They're going to have an approved literacy list. It was supposed to be released in November, but it still has not. Carol and I check it every day, and it's still, I checked it this morning, there's still nothing. That list is going to be strictly literacy and what we have to follow for tier 2. So we're still waiting on that. We are looking at some tier 2 math programs. Right now, we really have nothing. And these tier 2 math teachers are pulling whatever they can find, which is good, but also we want equity across all schools. So we're really looking at that. So I'm piloting something called Ready, Set, Go. It's a math program out of Minnesota, but I've been pulling some third graders in a group just to test it out. So that's on the horizon. EduClimber training is always a good thing as it's a very complex program. So that'll be out in early out cycle 2. CAPTE training is ongoing. We just had a session last week. We have another one Wednesday, and then we have 3 more mandated ones from the state with me and the interventions teams to what we do with the data. And so that'll be in the spring. Math Masters is something that I oversee as well, part of that GATE program. That's going to start up in January. We have very solid teams, and the kids are always they just glamour over that. So it'll be fun. And then again, just looking for that Minnesota READ Act approved literacy intervention list. So waiting on that.
Say too, I was looking at the new math program. We are looking at.
Yeah.
Tier 2.
Yep. So just echoing what Carol says with the math committee, we're, starting the standards alignment and then looking at that tier 1 math program and seeing if there's any tier 2 programs. It's kind of hard find, but we're going through the motions to find it. Anybody I know this was a fast and furious of a very complex system, but does anybody have any questions? Yeah.
Zach, I'm very, very impressed with the MTSS success and all the.
I'd leave it to Mrs. Shadee, not me. So.
Percentage-wise, how many of our students wind up in tier 2 or tier 3?
Yeah, so I like going back to the numbers, we have over 800 plus another 200 in reading core. So I mean, that's 1,000 students in tier 2. Some of those students are on IEPs if they don't have a reading or math goal. Our tier 2 need is high. The percentage I don't have off of hand. I can get it for you if that's what you would like. But yeah, that's what the numbers look like, a little over 1,000 students.
So we're looking at reducing the number of tier 2 to get them into the tier 1
It's always the goal.
program.
Yep, for sure.
Second question that I have, we appear to have strong action in math and reading. What about science?
Yeah, that's a great question that Carol and I, So Carol will speak a little bit to, we do not currently screen in science. And have you provided a report for MCAs or has someone?
Did one earlier a little bit,
On
yes,
science?
but yeah.
Okay,
Do you want me to?
Yeah.
So we don't screen for science, but we are working on science.
Okay.
We know that for the last several years, we sit and we talk and we say, well, our science scores aren't where they need to be. Nothing happens and we come back and say our science scores aren't where they need to be. We do have some things in place. We are working on these screeners happen 3 times a year. I have found some benchmark assessments in science, so we could do those right along with this to give us some internal data. And we're also, I've been working with a lot of other districts in the area too to see what they're doing. And so really doing some collaborating with that, but we don't per se do this. And the hard part for science, when you're looking at this data with MCAs, part of it is it's the very last test that those students ever take is the science test. So by the time the students get to science, a lot of them are done and they've checked out, and we can't really do much about that. But it is on our radar. We do now have a K-12 science committee. We are looking at the data. And I don't know if I said it here. I don't think I did. It was at another meeting, but for a lot of our areas, we are second only to Hermantown. And that's for reading and for math. And I think science, we might be third for the area north of the city. So I think we're doing great. You can make the numbers look however you want to look, but it is on our radar.
Good, thank you. Any other questions?
Okay.
Nice presentation. Thank you for coming.
Zach, thank you.
Any luck?
I think at this time we could take a break. And we were going to go over the proposed 26-27 school calendar. Superintendent Matt Gross is on his way here from the cities. I just looked at the radar and he might be driving through snow. So maybe we'll just take a break for now. And if he arrives before 6 o'clock, we can go through that. And if he doesn't, we'll have to move it to another agenda. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
Okay.
snow.
It was bad. It was 40 out of 11. Yeah. Yeah.
And it broke down.
Oh, yeah.
It didn't.
And the one side, Maple Grove.
Okay, we're back up and rolling.
Okay, mic's on.
Yes.
We're going to come back into session and deal with the agenda item, the draft of the 2026-27 school calendar. Superintendent Gross.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is the time of year where we typically will start working on a calendar draft. We had some really good discussions with our teacher group this negotiating session about time. So I want to make sure and honor that right up front, that we've committed to working with them on time and on calendar and things like that. But one of the things that we talked about, well, a couple things we talked about are, I think, important that the board just sort of gets up to speed on and has some time to consider. So I would say there's two big things that I'm showing you today just as a point of information and consideration. And then we'll continue discussion and have further conversations with the teacher group too. So the first thing I think is that for a 2-year period, the legislature, for the first time in my recollection, gave boards the ability to make the decision to start before Labor Day. Now, there were some provisions previously that would allow school districts to do that. Typically, it would happen around construction. So if there was a big construction project, the school district could apply for an alternative calendar, and many school districts do that every year. So this last session, the legislature gave boards the ability to make that decision. So the next 2 years were chosen specifically because Labor Day falls as late as possible the next 2 years. In the 26 calendar year, Labor Day is on the 7th, which means that if we were going to follow a typical calendar, we wouldn't start school till the 8th, which is what we had done previously before this ability to have this exception. So I wanted to show you what that looks like mapped out on a calendar. So that's kind of item number one, again, to think about, ask questions about, etc. And one of the things when people start looking at our calendar or looking at a calendar, it is a toothpaste tube where if you squish one area, it is going to affect a number of other things. So if we run a 2 full week break on the holidays, that means it's going to has the potential to push into June. If we run a typical spring break, that has the potential to push into June. If we start after Labor Day, it has the potential to push into June. And especially if you did more than one of those things, you're looking at that possibility. The other thing that we have tried to stay away from is to have a 2-day week around a break. And mostly, well, I'd say a couple things. One is operationally, warming up a building for a couple days and then having it be cool or turned down for that many isn't really great use of resources. And second, educationally, it's tough to really get a lot done if there's only 2 days in that week. You essentially have a Monday and a Friday happening. So those are all things as it relates to beginning, middle, and end, if you will. Any questions about that part?
Did you say, have we ever started before Labor Day in Grand Rapids?
I don't know if Lori's shaking her head, and so I'm tending to believe her. The only time that I would have been aware of the possibility is when the 2 new schools were under construction, if there was a head start, but.
No, we didn't. No,
we didn't. So that would go back a ways. And again, there's an application process that you have to go through and things like that. The second thing that I just wanted to show you, and again, this isn't, I wouldn't even go so far as to say this is a proposal, what I'm showing you right now. It's more of like, here's an idea of what this could look like. So one of the discussions that has been happening for a number of years in our school district and others is re-examining early outs on Wednesdays. And 15 or 20 years ago, we were in a place in IASC where all the districts had early outs on Wednesdays. And the idea was always that there would be collaboration happening on those days. And that happened to a degree, and it's happened to a degree over time. But I would say that that vision never really came to fruition the way that it was originally thought about. Since then, a number of districts have gone away from early out Wednesdays in IASC. And what's interesting is there are districts in northern Minnesota that were really influenced by that work. And I think the idea of professional development embedded in a school calendar was really that was really the groundbreaking idea, is that we were going to carve some time somehow where people could do some collaboration and learning. But there are districts outside of IASC that still are on early out Wednesdays because of that work. So anyway, over time, districts have sort of gone away from that in IASC. Northland, for instance, doesn't do that anymore. Hill City doesn't do it anymore. Greenway did not do it this year. Nashwauk, it sounds like, is moving away from it next year. Floodwood, the same. Deer River is still on it right now, this school year. We are still on it right now, this school year. But I think some of those discussions are happening also about alternative schedules. So one of the things that came up clear in our conversations with the teachers was just how important time was and the need for time. And we've talked at this table. You heard Zach and Carol probably a little bit ago talk about the work that we've been doing, and that work doesn't come without more emphasis on data, more emphasis on time, more need for collaboration. And while I think that we have become more effective in planning our early outs over the last few years, I think it's time to at least engage in a dialogue about what an alternative could look like. And so the alternative that Northland, I'll just pick on them, the alternative that Northland has used the last few years, 2 years, I think, is to essentially accumulate that time from Wednesday, put the Wednesday time back so the schedule is the exact same on Wednesday as it is for every other day, and then accumulate those 40 minutes from those 36 days and scatter some professional learning days throughout the year. So staff, the district would have an entire day to do professional development, collaboration, do process work, meeting with colleagues, things like that. We had a discussion about that with our teachers. There was interest, I would say, on the negotiating team for that. It's something that's been discussed on and off the last few years. I think calendar, this approach versus, any approach relative to calendar, there will be positives and negatives to it. I think one of the things that we value about our early outs right now is we know that we have a consistent rhythm that every week we're going to be checking back with our staff. There's also negatives to that. It's a short amount of time. And so that time, especially in some of our buildings, is really condensed. It's tough in some buildings, tougher than others, to get traction and get going and make something meaningful happen, especially if there's pressures of, we need to get kids on buses, we need to do pickup, we need to do these things. Are you shaking your head over there, Lori? Yeah. So there are just things that happen that make it, not always ideal. And so I think the idea of embedded professional development, collaboration time, learning time is good. I think that now that most of IASC has gone away from it, the idea or one of the rationale, the collaborative time on Wednesdays is less of a reason to stay. And so I think it just begs the question, is there a better way to do it? We've heard internally from some staff that messed up schedule on Wednesday. As much as, we've been in this routine now for 20 years, probably, it's still creates some chaos for some families on Wednesdays. And so I think there would be some people that would welcome consistency internally and externally. But I also know that for some families, it might be challenging to say, well, you need to find care for this many extra days on Fridays. With that said, I would say that I've gone to a number of presentations from school districts that have moved to a 4-day week. I still think that's worth discussing, but it's not necessarily for right now. But who have gone to a 4-day week, one of the conditions of that alternative schedule is, and in the application, is to talk about childcare, what you're going to do with childcare if you move to a 4-day week. And what I've heard over and over again is that districts have established a childcare plan for that off day, and within a few months, the utilization is so low that they end up canceling it. Just because families figure out a plan. And if you think about our current schedule, October, MEA, people are figuring out a plan. The Friday of Thanksgiving, if people don't have that off, they're figuring out a plan. Conference makeup days, they're figuring out a plan. So our families are figuring out plans now. How easily that they're doing that, I'm not sure, but they've made some adjustments. So again, what I'm showing you today is not what I would even say is a proposal at all. It's just to show you what the concept would look like of a pre-Labor Day start. And if we were going to scatter some PD days throughout the year. And I'm saying all that to say, I also don't want to get ahead of too far our conversations with our teachers out of respect for that dialogue. So I'm envisioning that sooner than later, I'll be getting together with a group from that team to just talk about ideas. But preliminary discussions with that group were very positive around something like this. So I guess for right now, for the board, all I'm looking for is feedback on, what do you think about a pre-Labor Day start? Do you want me to continue to consider that in options? And then the second thing is, are you open to the idea of something other than our early out Wednesdays? So that I know when I meet with the teachers what we can what's on the table as far as the district's concerned. Generally, we have some discussion in IASC that's kind of already started. Then there are usually a couple iterations of this in the next month or so. A draft comes back to the board, another opportunity for feedback, and then the calendar is generally approved in February, I would say. And we have a contractual obligation in the teacher's contract to have it done by February 15th, I believe. So there are some markers for us there, but yeah, I guess comments or questions.
If we started after Labor Day like we normally would we still be able to be out of here before June 1st, or would that push that back too? I mean, because that's kind of a key date for a lot of families, is that June 1 date.
Yeah, if we started after Labor Day, it would be, I would say, almost impossible to be done before Labor Day. And if we ran a and I'd go further to say this, if we ran a calendar after Labor Day next year and a spring break, we would be going to school into probably the 8th, 9th, 10th of June.
Too late.
Way later than at least the feedback from our community has said they want. I mean, what I hear consistently is, let's be done before Memorial Day. If possible, let's be done as early in June as we can. This year was one of those unique days or times where it was the opposite. We had Labor Day real early, and so that gave us some options with some additional time off, and now we're kind of on the flip of it. So, to answer your question, if we started after Labor Day, it would be really tough. I would say impossible to be done without going into June quite a bit.
Matt, just to piggyback off of what Melissa is asking, and I think you touched on it just a bit, but if we did continue to start before that Labor Day, so if we are looking at this particular calendar, we'll just use it as the example. This one says that they're starting on the 1st. That does open up the opportunity to have that Easter break or our spring break extended. Is that something that would happen every year? Or is that, because again, families are just like, how can we get a longer spring
Yep.
break? When can we be done before Memorial Day? Is that something that would essentially happen every calendar year? Or is that just, what are?
I would say it's difficult. It's difficult to predict. If you look at, if you look at Easter, this, in the 26-27 year, it's at the end of March. So that's unique. Our third quarter ends up being done right about that same time. So that's not a condition that happens, it's not a condition that happens every year. It sort of happens when it can be manufactured that way. But, yeah, so I don't know if I'm answering your question.
You are, I understand.
Spring break is one of those things where, having done this a long time, what I've learned is that if I talk to 100 people, there will be 50 people that want one and 50 people that don't. And among the people who want a spring break, getting agreement about when that should be is impossible.
I know, yeah.
So at some, and that's not, to say we should never do it, but it's just, that is kind of a dynamic.
No, and that's what, you did
Yeah.
answer my question. That's,
Okay.
Easter's a weird, goofy floating holiday kind of.
Mhm.
David? Mr. Chair. Mr. Superintendent, I value the Wednesdays from the concept, and I understand that it hasn't really realized itself as we think, but it does give us a marker every week.
Yep.
Where people can come together
Mhm.
And collaborate, have class level meetings and so forth. I have a question, a concern, a wonder in my mind. If we bunch this up on 1, 2, 3, 4 Fridays throughout the year, do we have staff that looks at that and says, well, punch out and
Yeah, so it's really interesting you bring that up. We had great dialogue with the teacher group, and we shared that concern. We shared the two concerns really that we had was, we really like the regularity of Wednesdays. That's something I think that if the value creates itself somewhere else, that we could definitely take a look at a different model. And we shared the same concern right now. If someone misses a Wednesday for whatever reason, they're missing 40 minutes worth of something that is really not that hard to make up. Where if someone were to miss an entire Friday, they potentially have missed hours and hours. And so that's a concern. That concern was shared by the teachers, and they offered some options that I thought were really good to consider.
thank you. It's been thought of. Thank you.
Yeah. Yep.
Superintendent Gross, I would just say I am supportive of getting rid of Wednesdays. And because I've heard it for 20 years.
Mhm.
On both sides, right? From teachers what you've already expressed, from parents. But then there's this learning piece in it, right? And kids, when they have a routine, they can stay in a routine. But when you have 2 days and they're just getting into a routine and all the routine shifts, and now they kind of have to come back and they're kind of back into a routine. And for some kids, that's really hard.
Yeah.
And you hear it from teachers, right? Sometimes that, especially when they're little,
Yeah.
like that's the hardest time.
Yeah.
They're getting in a rhythm. Then we change the rhythm. Then we need to get them back in the rhythm. And so I value the education for teachers, but there's also like this education for kids too around the learning side. And so I think it's valuable to take a look and see what that might look like. And I think a lot of parents would be grateful because it does, at 20 years later, I would still probably forget my children if I did because I did a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great.
Superintendent Gross, one quick question I had was, you mentioned it and I just wanted to know if it's on the table, it sounds like there's some evaluation to be done about the potential for 4-day
Yeah.
school week. Is that on the table for 26, 27?
I would say that at this time, it still is. What you're looking at right now would not require any type of interaction with Department of Education because it's a pretty traditional schedule. It's just adjusting some days. If we went to what would be considered a non-traditional schedule, like a 4-day week, or in a year that Labor Day wasn't late, if we were going to doing construction and needing to start, we would have to complete an application. So part of that application, as I mentioned, is validating instructional hours. So that's sort of the metric for us. We have what we're required, and I'll just stick with the secondary because that's really the one that's the most challenging to hit. We have to provide 1,020 hours of instruction a year. That's the law. It's less for elementary. It's even less for kindergarten. But we have to provide 1,020. And our calendar obviously right now does that. So that's why when we're talking about smushing Wednesdays and moving, we have to be. So part of the application when you're doing an alternative calendar like a 4-day is including the calculations around the instructional hours. You have to include information in there on a 4-day application about childcare, about food on that 5th day, justification. So and you have to have 3 public meetings. So there's a variety of kind of procedural steps that go in place. And the date that I'm remembering from that application was that had to be completed by April 25th. So there's still plenty of time to do that. But that's what would have to be done for next fall. And the other thing that if one of the decisions that gets made, whether you're doing something like this or a 4-day week, is what's that day? What's that 5th day or the day that becomes a no school day? My preference is Friday. I'll just say that based on attendance and trends in our district. That's what the districts in our region that are doing it have sort of landed on, is Fridays. And there are other districts in the state that have done Mondays. But the concept that I've presented, I think, could be a interesting, first step into how's this work? How does our community respond? But there are a lot more. There would need to be a lot more conversations with the community about the impact of that 5th day before we would do anything that. Well, I just think about our healthcare system, and a decision that we would make around calendar could affect our healthcare system's ability to provide care, and that would be not all the districts that I'm familiar with that have 4-day weeks have a presence of 600 and some healthcare employees right down the road. And I'm not aware of a district. North Branch was I think probably at one point the largest district that I'm aware of in Minnesota that does 4-day. They no longer do that. So we would be, from what I know, the largest enrollment district doing a 4-day if we were going to look at that.
The rough math looks like an extra hour or so a day.
Yep. I'd say that's pretty accurate. 45 minutes to an hour. Yep. The challenge for us, and I've said this before, is transportation and things like that. And it's not that can't be, we can't get creative around that. But, for us, I would say our minutes would probably go more on the end of the day than the beginning, just because we have kids on the bus right now at 6:15.
Thank you.
Okay, so it sounds like the idea of starting after Labor Day is safe for me to bring to discussions with the teachers. The idea of something different than Wednesdays is something the board's familiar or comfortable with, knowing that you're going to get multiple iterations of this back. Is that true? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I think just a clarification that starting earlier than. Labor Day is what you're saying.
Starting earlier than Labor Day. I should mention too that the law says you can start before Labor Day, but no earlier than September 1st. So that's why it looks the way it does on this concept.
Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we're going to adjourn the workshop and we'll come back into session as soon as Julie is ready to do truth and taxation.
Thank you. When Dave gets back.
It's going to wait for Dave.
See, I knew I. Mark, we can do this is considered like a regular meeting, so we can do the pledge at this one. But when we move into the special meeting, I don't think we need to do it again.
Just one time. Yeah.
Do you need your green sheet?
No, not. We'll get that at the end.
No. Okay.
Ready, Julie?
We're ready.
We'll call the Truth and Taxation meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved, David.
Moved by David. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Dave. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
The agenda is approved. Next item on the agenda, Truth and Taxation presentation. Kara.
Good evening. I'll go through a set of slides and we'll have time at the end for questions, but during this presentation, board, please feel free to jump in with any questions that you have.
Thank you.
Tonight we'll go over why we have this meeting, understanding the levy process, and the proposed levy. And we'll also look at our audited results and our budget for the upcoming year, and then we'll allow for public comment. There are two requirements of tonight, two requirements of the truth and taxation law. One is that the county must provide these statements to taxpayers, property taxpayers, and two, we must have a public hearing with the 4 items noted. The law gets even more specific. We must have it between specific dates. We must have it after 6 o'clock at night. We could adopt the levy tonight, but we are going to do that next week. And we must allow for public comment. And the presentation must talk about the current year budget, the prior year results, and then the levy, the change in the levy, and the reasons for the changes in the levy.
Chair Schroeder. Just one comment. We did move. We've had specific changes. If you could just, can you go back one? We used to do, when I first came onto the board, we used to actually vote on the levy right after the truth and taxation meeting. And we made a specific change in that so that we could take public comment into because otherwise it was just, it felt like a rubber stamp, and that's not where we wanted to be. So that's the reason why we do not vote on that at this point in time after the truth in taxation. So I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah.
So, because that's happened over the last few years.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the county and the city of Grand Rapids have already had their truth and taxation meetings, and we're different from their processes. They are proposing a levy for next year for 2026, a calendar year, and their budgets are calendar year budgets. Our budget is based on a fiscal year. So this levy that we will be approving will be collected next year, all of 2026, and it will be for our 27 budget. So when we approve this, we are saying, this is what we're going to get in revenue. We're going to have to match our expenses to this revenue. We're not able to say, this is how much we need. We're going to get this much. So that is one of the main differences in this levy.
Could you say that one more time, please?
Which part specifically?
Matching.
So with the county and the city, their budget is for the calendar year, so January to December, where ours is July 1st through June 30th. So this levy that we're proposing will be collected next year in calendar year 26. Then it will be for our fiscal year, July 1st, 26 through June 30th, 27. Does that make sense? Okay. For this process, our levy process, the county assessor determines the value of everyone's property, and property values are sent out to property owners in early spring. Then in July through September, the Department of Education and myself and Mr. Gross decide on inputs. And honestly, there's not a lot that can be, that's left up for discussion when it comes to our levy. The majority of our levy is already determined by our property tax values and our enrollment and our debt service schedules and our expenses we've incurred. There's not a lot that we're able to change when it comes to our levy. In December, we have this meeting, and then you certify the final levy. This levy is collected throughout the next year. Taxpayers, May and October are the dates when this needs to be paid. And then July 1st through June 30th, 2027 is when the district would recognize this as revenue. I like this example because this shows how property valuations affect your levy. And like I said, we don't have a lot of say what goes into our levy. It's pretty determined for us. But when I speak with taxpayers and they're concerned about their tax statement, most of the time it boils down to their property valuation, and we have nothing to do with that. But for instance, here, there's two homes. They're each valued at $100,000, and the district levy is $500. Each person is going to pay $250. Their houses are the same value. The levy's $500. In this scenario, they pay the same amount. Next year, the assessor went out and looked at the properties. He increased one home by 10%, and he increased the other home by 25%. The levy's still $500. The levy's still the same. But one taxpayer's levy is going up by 6.4% and one's going down by 6.4%. And most of the time, the change in the valuation of the property drives the total change at the bottom of the taxpayer's statement. So when you get your tax statement and you look at it, the first line that everyone looks at is, what is the value of my property? How has that changed from year to year? Well, we should already know that, right? Because the assessor already told us back in April. We got a tax statement back in April that told us that. After we look at our value, the homestead exclusion is applied. So the homestead exclusion is a credit to taxpayers. If your home is $95,000 or less, you get the max amount, which is 40% exclusion. That amount reduces the taxable market value of your property. So you pay less taxes on it. The maximum amount your house can be is 517,200 to qualify for this credit. Then the taxable market value is what the taxes are applied to. And on the back of the tax statement is every taxing authority in Itasca County. It just lists them all out and the proposed levy increase in our district is 7.81%. And where that amount comes from is the general levy of 8 million, the debt service levy of 7.8 million to come up with the 15.9 million. Now it's a 7.8% increase for next year. But last year, if you remember, our levy decreased by 4.6%. And over those 2 years, our levy will have only gone up 2.9%. And I'm just going to rewind a little bit. And if you were here last year, I apologize. But the OPEB levy debt service, now that has been the game changer in our levy, right? We've been pretty status quo for the last several years. But this OPEB debt levy, we issued debt back in 2009 to fund a trust that funded our retiree insurance. We issued $35 million set aside to pay for retiree health insurance. That debt was paid off in 25. This past February, we made our last debt service payment, kind of when you pay off your mortgage. It was exciting for me. So that was all done. That debt, our debt overall was structured. So when that debt came off the rolls, the debt that was issued for our new elementary schools increased. Not by the same amount, remember, because our levy went down last year. Now this year, we added $2 million. We spent $2 million last year in retiree health insurance. That amount is going on our levy. We've spent it. We can levy for it. We're just reimbursing ourselves with this levy. We have sunsetted those benefits, so it is leviable. Otherwise, that would be from the general fund and we would not be able to levy for it. And that comes out, that's why our levy over the 3 years is a 2.9% increase. And if you look at this specifically, look at the voter approved levies. So in 2024, that levy was 2.9 million. Last year, we levied 6.9 million. You can see where that debt was shifted from that OPEB debt to the construction fund for the new elementary schools. That increased. It went down this year, but the general fund levy is going up for those retirees. So those retiree costs are really just, reallocating themselves to the voter approved levy and the other levy. Again, overall, the past 2 years, a 2.9% increase in our levy. And this really lays it out. And I apologize that it's small. But if not for that OPEB levy, our general fund levy would be decreasing. And I don't think anyone, I'm a taxpayer and I don't like that our levy is going down because those top three, the local option, the equity, and the transition are all three of those are the levy revenue that goes to the general fund that is undesignated, that we can use to pay for our elementary school teachers, that we can pay for our middle school teachers. That is money that goes to the district that is specifically for us to pay for education. Those don't have strings attached other than all the state statutes that are tied to public funds. That's $3.8 million. That amount is going down. That $3.8 million is only 5.7% of our budget. It's going down because it is determined based on our enrollment, and our enrollment has gone down. So therefore, we're getting less money in levy, and that makes sense. But there's no way we can say we need more money. We can't manipulate those numbers. Not that we would. So that annual OPEB levy is going up by 1.6 million. Like I said, we've already spent that money. This is just a reimbursement to us. And the total general fund levy is going up by 1.5 million. Some of the other ones on here, operating capital and LTFM, those are based on the age of our buildings and our student counts. So both of those are going up. The age of our buildings have gone up by a year, our student count down. Those formulas have not changed in the last several years. None of these formulas have. The Safe Schools money, that's going down. That's the money we use to pay for our school resource officer that we can use. That there's so many beneficial uses of it, but again, it's going down. Less students, less money. Career in Tech pays for our career in tech education teachers. If they're licensed, it pays for 35% of their expenses and their supplies. So this is good. This is a reimbursement also.
And that's going up, right?
That one is going up because we have a new teacher that is certified. So, achievement and integration, that's a specific program. Building and land lease, that we don't have many levies left. The majority of that expense is for the certificates of participation we issued for the Big Fork project, the community center. And then on this calculation is our taconite adjustment. So we, I'll get to this in a little bit, but just pay attention to that amount because that comes off the amount that's levied to our taxpayers. The final line is the adjustments and abatement. So the calculation for our taxes is 39 pages long. It's quite complex. But we're levying now for fiscal year 27. We don't know what our enrollment's going to be. We don't know what our property tax values are going to be at that time. The state continues to look back and they do adjustments every 2 years. So those adjustments are taken into account. So if they're negative, that means less taxes levied on the taxpayers. Our debt service is decreasing. This one, again, just is pretty much on autopilot. This is our debt service, principal and interest payments on all our bonds issued. I have to levy 105% of our obligation because we are required to make those payments. This is a negative. It's going down because we have a very good collection rate in Itasca County for our taxes. So when our fund balance gets to a certain level, then the state says your fund balance is high enough. We're going to reduce your levy because you have that additional cushion there. You don't need to do the 105%. So this is going down. We also earn a very nice interest rate on our cash that's kept in the debt service fund. So that goes towards that fund, helps with the fund balance, helps reduce the amount of levy that is needed. And then that OPEB fund, those bonds were paid off. That fund still had a fund balance in it. So the state looks at that and says, you have excess fund balance here. So we're going to under levy for the debt service going forward. The taconite adjustment we receive, because we live in a taconite area, we receive this taconite production offset. So it is 32.15 cents per taxable ton on taconite production. That goes into a fund and is allocated to the districts, to all the municipalities in the area. This year, this adjustment offsets our levy by $688,000. So this reduces our levy amount, which is nice. It always covers 100% our community service levy, and then the rest is applied to the general fund. And here's the past 4 years, and here are the surrounding districts and how much this taconite levy offset benefits the school districts in this area. A couple of years ago, we asked voters to approve an operating referendum, which would provided funding for our districts. It was voted down. Prior to this year's election, there were only 90 school districts in the state of Minnesota, 28% of the districts that did not have an operating referendum. We are one of them. The average authority for districts that do have an operating referendum is $1,111. So if we had the average, that would, be over $4 million for our district, for our students. And then you can see this broken out between rural and metro districts. We heard from the auditor in October, but just to reiterate, our operations were good last year. Our revenues were down from fiscal year 24, but if we remember, we have had we had a lot of COVID funding. And we can see the decrease in that federal line going from 5.9 million in 24 to 2.6 million in fiscal year 25. Our expenses were up, but we needed to purchase a reading curriculum last year. We purchased some buses. You heard from Greg last month talk about the age of our buses and how we need to purchase more buses. We also funded part of the solar project up in Big Fork that we're being reimbursed on, and also the renovations at the RGEM parking lot. So in addition to educating all our students. Our fund balance at the end of the year was $15 million. Part of that is designated, part of that is undesignated. We have a fund balance policy between 10 and 15% undesignated fund balance of total expenditures. That's the blue line. The orange line is the state of Minnesota's calculation for fund balance policy. And I keep that up there because I can pick up a financial for any school district and look at this calculation and see what their health is. The average district in the state of Minnesota has MDE fund balance percentage of around 25%. And while I think we're all very excited where we are, right? We've lived through the 3.9% years. We are not out of the woods where we're at. We are deficit spending this year because of the retiree health that will be paid for out of the general fund. And why balancing the budget has become such a problem is in 2003, and I know that was a while ago, but inflation has really hit hard, especially in 2022. The basic education formula was decoupled from inflation. Right now, this year, we'd have $1,470 per pupil unit more in buying power than we did in 2003. And if I just use rough numbers, 4,000 pupil units, that's over $5 million that we would have buying power. In 2025, the legislature approved linking inflation and the basic formula. So this year, in fiscal year 26, is the first year since 2003 that they have linked the formula to inflation. So this year, fiscal year 26, we are getting 2.74% increase on our basic education formula. Unfortunately, that formula is less than half of our general fund revenue. So on half of our revenue, we're getting a 2.7% increase. But we'll take it. This is our revenues for the past 10 years. And you can see the COVID years in 21 through 24. Our federal aids made up a much larger portion of our general fund budget. And we use that money to supplement our operations. We didn't go out and hire a bunch of people or do a bunch of projects. We use that for our operations. And that's how we were able to build our fund balance up. We no longer have that COVID money. The state aids have become a larger portion. There have been some mandates. There have been more unfunded mandates, but there have been a couple funded mandates, one-time money that we received in 25, and we got money for the READ Act. We also got state aid for the RGEMS parking lot project. We got money for the solar project. Those are one-time monies that we will not get again. They did increase the cross subsidy for special education aid by quite a bit, so that has helped us. But they have convened a task force to decrease the amount of special ed expenses because they need to decrease the amount of special ed aid, which will affect us in the future. The taxes and other local was a larger portion of our budget in the prior years and is projected to be about 12% in fiscal year 26. The orange is the fees, donations, and miscellaneous. And this is the one we've been able to control. It's such a small portion, but we've been able to invest wisely. We've had to increase our fees for our athletes and our parents and users of our resources. So that amount has gone up slightly. Our expenses have been fairly consistent with more and more resources going to instruction. And that, our main mission here is instructing our kids. But we do have to support the other areas. We do have to maintain our buildings, maintain our buses, and have admin. As many people think we do not, we still do. And that amount has become smaller also. And salaries and benefits continue to be the largest portion of our expenses in our general fund. We did have those construction projects last year that raised the all other costs like salaries and benefits, and then we pay for all our busing, all our construction, all our maintenance in that small other bucket. And last year, like I said, we had to do the curriculum. Curriculum is very expensive. Buses, improvements, all of those are important to our district. Where we are this year, we're in a good spot. Our original budget was a deficit. We knew that. We knew we had to absorb those retiree health costs. They're now coming into the general fund because that trust is exhausted. I have about 2 months left of the trust, and then it will fully be on the general fund to cover those costs. That trust will be expired. But looking at projections, we will come, fairly close to what the budget was set back in June. Updates are for accruals. We have offered stipends to our groups for this upcoming year in lieu of increases on the schedules, on the matrices. We've had some updates to our benefits. We have some capital costs for the RGEM parking lot and the solar project yet to come. And then if I'm aware of any state and federal grant updates, I have increased those entitlements also. A lot of our activity takes place at the end of the year. So the fact that our actual year to date is a deficit of more than what our budget is does not worry me at all. That is very normal for us. We do a lot of tuition billing at the end of the year. So that is very normal. Or do you have any questions for Mr. Gross? Yeah.
More just for general public. Can you say what OPEB stands for?
Yeah. Yep. Other post-employment benefits. So that is our retiree health insurance. That is in all of our contracts, and not just health insurance, also life insurance for some groups. That was promised. It was agreed to in each individual contract. It has been sunsetted in every contract. No new employees will get this benefit, but we have close to at 70 employees that could retire and still get this, but no one new coming on will get this.
So the retirement benefits aren't an option. Like we have to absorb them somewhere.
Yes.
It's not an option.
Yeah, I think it's worth mentioning there, some of the costs involved in that levy, we would be paying for one way or another. And so I think OPEB is a good example. That 1.6 million, if we're not levying for it, it would just stay coming out of our general fund, which would mean we would be deficit spending by that, which means we'd be cutting another 1.6 million in order to balance our budget. So I mean, that's not can we reduce that number? No, that is an obligation that we have. We're going to pay for it one way or another. And so that's why that shows up that way.
Kara, can you talk a little bit about, so I think you said 7.81% is the increase in the levy, correct?
Yep.
Had we not made the change, do you have an idea with the OPEB benefits? Do you know what that percentage would have been?
If we had not,
Made the retiree health benefit
Oh.
changes that we made?
so that retiree health is only what we paid so far. So next year, I did speak with Rochelle and said, can you please tell me what is it going to be next year? Because we will see savings. She said she had 507 individuals that went through, that are signed up for the Medicare Advantage plan. But the hard part about that is so we have married couples, we have families on our plan here, but each individual person is their own insurance plan going to Medicare. So we don't quite have the cost figured out yet, what we will save going forward with the change.
Okay,
But that'll impact next year's.
right, next year, okay.
Yep.
Sorry, thanks.
Any other questions for Kara?
Thank you. Very thorough.
Next item on the agenda is public comment. Julie, do we have anyone signed up?
No, we don't.
Is there any other business to come before the board? Hearing none, we will adjourn the Truth and Taxation meeting, and we will come directly into session for the special meeting as we end here.
Okay, I'm ready.
You ready?
I am ready.
We'll call the special meeting to order. First item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved, David.
Moved by David. Do I have a second? Second by Ashley.
Melissa.
Melissa, sorry.
Okay.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? The agenda is approved. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Reminder that the consent agenda are routine matters and do not require discussion. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Dave. Do I have a second?
Second, David.
Second by David. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Consent agenda is approved. Next item on the agenda, approve permission to post intervention teacher ADSIS behavior position, Superintendent Gross.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In your packet, you'll see a permission to post request. This comes to you whenever we're requesting to post a position that's new. In the packet, you'll see the rationale there, and Zach did a good job putting together the data relative to the position itself. I think the big thing related to cost, every fall we have an adjustment for title. We had additional title dollars, funds to pay for this position. They would be supporting behavior at East Rapids Elementary. This wouldn't affect the budget that you approved in June in a negative way, but because we have these funds available and a need available, we're requesting to post this position and hire for the remainder of the year. The continuance of the position for the 26-27 school year would be considered as part of our budget process. So this would be essentially to finish the year out.
Do I have a motion to approve posting the intervention teacher?
So moved.
Moved by Melissa. Do I have a second?
Second, David.
Second by David. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We've approved the permission to post the intervention teacher. The next item on the agenda, approve permission to post alternative ed principal position, Superintendent Gross.
Did that document make it into your packet? It
No.
didn't. Did I not give that to you? The rationale?
It should be, you know what it is? It's in there in the folder. I can make copies. It's in their folder in the Google Drive
Okay.
in that.
I wonder if we could,
In the
wonder if it's
extra.
possible
I
to pull up.
can pull it up. Absolutely.
In the extras.
It is. Yeah. That's where it is.
While Julie's tracking that down, what I'm requesting is that the board consider allowing us to post for an alternative education principal that would serve three primary duties. One, to oversee the area learning center. Two, to oversee the Itascan Education Center. And three, to oversee the Grand Rapids Area Virtual Academy. When Julie, there we go. So when considering staffing and looking at this from an administrative function standpoint, the impact of this would affect four areas. Currently, we have our Cohasset principal, who is our only 10-month lead administering IEC. This would relieve him of that duty. Again, he's the only lead principal in a 10-month role, and he's doing this additional duty. This is for the 26-27 school year. So it would affect Cohasset. The second thing or building that would affect would be the high school. Currently, the elementary assistant principal that serves both east and west is also administering the elementary side of our online program. And the high school principal, our assistant principal, is overseeing the secondary component of our online school. I think when we were designing our online program, I anticipated there to be a little bit more of a parity between the elementary enrollment and the secondary, and as it turned out, it's been predominantly secondary enrollment. So of our enrollment, which is higher than anticipated as well, approximately 70. Of that enrollment, all but about 10 are secondary students. So our secondary assistant principal is administering that for about 60 kids, which has added a great deal to his plate. And that's fine. We knew that going in, that we were going to have to figure this out. But along with that, when we have an enrollment in Grava that's higher than anticipated, that means our revenue affiliated with that program is higher than anticipated as well. And then by having this person administer the elementary side of Grava, that'll take the duties off of that east-west administrative or principal as well, removing that off their duties, so they'll be able to focus on east and west. So this position would impact the high school, it would impact east and west, it would impact Cohasset, and currently our special education director is administering the ALC, and this would remove that from that duty set also. So this one position could have a significant effect on how all those campuses or areas are running. The impact, you can see the gross cost there. That's based on where we anticipate this individual, if we were to post and hire, what their gross cost would be. How we would pay for it. We currently have a healthy, restricted ALC fund. We can't spend those ALC dollars anywhere than the ALC. And we have a fund balance there that could easily absorb the cost And you can see the breakdown that we're estimating there based on enrollment. So the lion's share of the cost of this position would be funded by ALC funding, which again is in a restricted fund. We can't spend it anywhere other than the ALC. The IEC, that program, we bill the costs for non-resident students attending IEC. So that program, as you know, similar to the ALC, really attracts students. That might not be the best word for it, but students enrolling there are from a variety of districts, including ours, but not limited to ours. And so we're able to tuition bill for the costs of those students. Again, we could bill, or we would bill, the costs of the administrator in that tuition. Finally, looking at the virtual academy enrollment, I think we've demonstrated that that program has utility in our community. Our budget for this year, and the concept was based on between 40 and 50 students being enrolled. As I mentioned, we're at 70 and we're not even to second semester yet. So I think the opportunity, it's exceeded expectations in terms of need and enrollment. And that's without marketing or advocating or really going into growth mode there. And I think now that we know that that's a program that has potential, just 5 enrollments beyond where we are now would more than cover the rest of the cost of this individual. So I think if that program is going to grow, which in terms of our enrollment, there aren't a lot of places where I can sit here and say we can grow enrollment here or grow enrollment here or grow enrollment here. Online is one of the places where we can grow enrollment. It's one of the places that we can affect the revenue side of our whole equation. But I believe that'll only happen if we have someone dedicated to the growth of that program, which again, the cost of that person would be more than offset by that growth. So, we would post this position sometime this spring if it was approved by the board, early enough where we could kind of get a sense of what, how this might affect the rest of our staffing. And then go from there. It would be a 12-month position. I think I mentioned that up above. It would be 12-month because the ALC has summer school programming, and also ramping up our online program is busy in the summer also.
Superintendent Gross. Is that okay?
Go ahead.
So are we proposing that 5, right? So the assistant principals then would move into a 10-month contract?
They are currently.
They are currently,
Yep.
so they would stay 10 months, but we would alleviate kind of that added duties that they've gotten.
Yes, we would alleviate the added duties that they have, and also there would be some cost savings also because there are some additional days affiliated with that summer work currently that they wouldn't have anymore. Yep.
Okay. Okay. So we do have some reduced costs in there.
Right.
Mr. Chair.
David?
Superintendent, when do we anticipate this position would begin?
I would say that the goal is to start it for fiscal or for the 26-27 school year. I think if there would be an opportunity to have some work begin in June, that would be ideal. Just again, from that, especially the Grava enrollment piece, doing that ALC summer school piece. So I think it would depend on the candidate a little bit. And I think Kara added, there's the potential to add some into this year's budget in order to incorporate that. You know, one of the challenges that I think I might as well just name, the optics of adding an administrator when we're cutting is obviously, I think we just need to put that on the table. The reality is we're talking about funding that is restricted that we can't spend anywhere else besides the ALC. We're talking about funding that's generated at the juvenile center that we can bill for predominantly. And then we're talking about revenue from a program that we're going to grow that will cover the cost. But really, I think our growth in that program is going to be inhibited, not just limited. It'll be inhibited without having more attention paid to that program, because our high school assistant principal, what he is doing currently is not sustainable.
Thank you for addressing that, Superintendent. That is something that has been discussed.
Yep, and I anticipate that that'll be something we hear, and I think we just need to tackle that conversation straight on.
At this time, do we see any administrative roles added with this position? I mean, that would be my other, are there
Sure.
tag-alongs that
Sure.
come with that?
Yeah, I think especially as the position grows or we identify other, pockets of duties, I think I'll look at our current special services director has a number of additional duties. There may be the potential to shift there. And the other thing is I'm not positive that this position would be here in 5 years or 10 years if this person, establishes the ALC. And there are some things that we can do with our ALC to improve it. There are things we need to do around credit recovery that I think somebody who is paying attention to this closely could do. Credit recovery, we could generate money there. So I'm not sure this position necessarily will be here in 5 years. I think this is about program growth. Could be, but it's not necessarily a long-term position. But, I guess I would hesitate to say it won't be here, but I wouldn't guarantee that it would be.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion to approve posting the position?
So moved.
Moved by Dave. Do I have a second?
Second, David.
Second by David. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I may, one thing I just wanted to call out, I had an opportunity to sit in and currently continue to sit in on the negotiations with the principal group. And I think as we talk about this as a potential option, it's not just these affected principals that will remove their duties that are going to get assisted. It's all of the current principals in those buildings, as well as the students and families that are affected by them. And I think it's important to call that out. What our lead principals are doing in the East, West, and high school are doing are truly pretty incredible. And I think giving them an ability to breathe and have a more manageable ability to kind of lead their buildings is going to be huge for our district.
I appreciate you bringing that up. And I focused on how this is affecting the assistant principal in those jobs, but by having our high school assistant principal devote a significant amount of time to Grava, that has meant that duties that he would typically do have come from that high school lead principal, which has changed his job. Not in a positive way in terms of what he's able to do there. So I'm glad you brought that up. The same thing is true at East. Having that online, those duties for that already assistant part-time principal really has meant that East lead principal has had to change what she does in order to accommodate that too. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
And I don't want folks to forget, when I started on this board, we had 3 at the high school.
Right.
We had a full-time principal and 2 assistant principals.
Correct.
And we had more bench strength throughout the district. And over time, we've eliminated that. And while our enrollment has decreased, it hasn't decreased at that amount.
Right.
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 I mean, there's still thousands of kids,
Yep.
Kids.
Yep.
Teenagers.
Teenagers. Yeah.
I just want to call out the fact that I like the creativity that we've found to be able to staff something like this and take the pressure off, because I think it's important that this is support for our staff, not just the principals, but also the teachers. If the teachers have the ability to work with administrators in a better way in their buildings, I think it's a great option for us.
Good point.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We've approved permission to post the alternative ed principals. Is there any other business to come before the board? If not, we're going to adjourn.
Mark, thank you.
Nice job, Kara.
Yeah, that's great.
Where are they? Yeah.